Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live episode of Newsflash. My name is Spencer Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us here today. On the show, we are talking about the latest in a very tragic series of events unfolding in Glynn County, Georgia, where a black man named Ahmaud Aubrey was shot and killed in Georgia. Give you the latest on that very, very tragic situation. I'll tell you the latest about the coronavirus, including why the White House could possibly be wanting to wind down the task force, the coronavirus task force. Ayanna Pressley boldly speaking out about the Tara Reade accusations, and a judge orders Bernie Sanders back on the ballot, baby. That's how we start today's show here on this Tuesday night episode of Newsflash. So it's a privilege to be on air, and thank you so much for listening. Really, really do appreciate it. Hopefully everyone's doing well with their quarantining situation. Hopefully all the essential workers in your family, if you have any, are staying safe. And that is the most important thing, that everyone stays safe during this time and is able to put food on the table, feed their family. It's very, very important. But first, before we talk a little bit more about the coronavirus, which we will later on the show, we do have to inform you of this really awful situation. As in more typical times, really, the shooting of death of an unarmed black man by a white man would have drawn widespread attention. This time it was not by the police. Over the years, similar cases have shaken communities and spurred nationwide social justice protests. I'm sure you remember Baltimore, Ferguson, and New York City as well with Eric Gardner. But much of the nation has been on lockdown because of the coronavirus, and the possibilities of mass protests have obviously been constrained. Friends and family members of the black man who was killed, Ahmaud Aubrey, who said they were worried that his death would go unnoticed and no one would be held to account. So that is definitely a big change now, as he has really gone pretty much viral on Twitter. Like, everyone pretty much knows his name right now. I've seen a lot of different types of display of just outrage of this, and there's a horrific video online that kind of shows the moment it happened. It's just absolutely shocking. Unless it's almost like a real life, almost TV show. So if you like, kind of trigger warning by that, just because it's very, very graphic, very, very dark. I kind of thought they would just get into some kind of physical altercation. Didn't know there was going to be a shooting when I watched it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have watched it. It's a very, very dark situation. So in recent days, obviously, Aubrey's death has been raised questions about just the racism, and that's President Georgia's self-defense laws and the wisdom of citizen policing. Because what they claimed was happening was a citizen's arrest. So I'll tell you a little bit more about this. Ahmaud Aubrey, he was according to the New York Times here, explaining, Mr. Aubrey, 25, is a former high school football standout who was living with his mother in coastal Glynn County, Georgia, outside the small city of Brunswick, Georgia. He was shot dead in a suburban neighborhood called Satilla Shores. Friends and family said he liked to stay in good shape, and he was often seen jogging around his neighborhood. I know I've been jogging a lot around the neighborhood, and luckily no one's pulled up and shot me yet. On Sunday, February 23rd. Wow, this was a long time, and no one even really knew about this. This was before the quarantine and all this. I didn't realize it was this long ago, and people just, like, the video, I think, just got released recently. That's why people are talking about it today. February 23rd, shortly after 1 p.m., he was killed in a neighborhood a short jog from his home after being confronted by a white man and his son. Aubrey was running in the Satilla Shores neighborhood where a man standing in front of his yard saw him go by. The man, Gregory McMichael, 64, thought that Aubrey looked like a man suspected of several break-ins in the area and called the police like you would do as a normal person in this situation. He called to his son, Travis McMichael, who's 34. So, according to the police report, they did whatever any normal man would do. They didn't, and again, you can obviously note the bullshit premise here of, he looks like a man who's been seen in the area, who's been accused of a robbery. Like, this is just these stupid, like, a black man walking by Like, you can see obviously the racial profiling, the racism in full display here. Like, this is not no bones about it type racism right here. This is just sickening. So what they did next was they grabbed a .357 Magnum and a shotgun, got into a pickup truck, and chased Aubrey, trying to unsuccessfully cut him off. A third man, who was also involved in the pursuit, according to the police report, was also involved in the police pursuit, according to him and other documents. In a recording of a 911 call, which appears to have been made moments before the chase began, a neighbor told the dispatcher that a black man was inside a house that was under construction on McMichael's block. During the chase, McMichaels yelled, "Stop, we want to talk to you," according to Gregory McMichael's account in the police report. So that's it's a whole nother story here. This is the son talking about this. And then they pulled up to Aubrey, and Travis McMichael got out of the truck with a shotgun. Gregory McMichael stated the unidentified male began to violently attack Travis, and the two men then started fighting over the shotgun, at which point Travis fired a shot, and then a second later, there was a second shot. The police report and other documents obtained by the New York Times do not indicate that Aubrey was armed, so of course he just came at him literally with a shotgun here. Gregory McMichael is a former Glynn County police officer and a former investigator with the lead local district attorney's office who retired last May. Neither he or his son has been arrested or charged. So yeah, shortly after the shooting, the prosecutor for the Brunswick Judicial District had to recuse herself because Gregory McMichael had worked in her office. The case was sent to George E. Barnhill, the district attorney in Waycross, Georgia, who eventually recused himself from the case after Mr. Aubrey's mother argued that he had a conflict because his son also works for the Brunswick district attorney. Before he relinquished the case, Barnhill argued in a letter obtained by the Times, there is not sufficient probable cause to arrest Mr. Aubrey's pursuers. Wow. In the letter, Barnhill noted that McMichaels were legally carrying their firearms under Georgia's open carry law. He said that the pursuers were within their rights to pursue what he called a robbery suspect. So yeah, again, what evidence they had to pursue a burglary suspect, a robber, someone who they thought burgled houses? Literally just because he was black. Like, that was literally the only piece of evidence. Like, they saw a photo or a description of a robber who'd been going around robbing houses in the area, and there was a black guy, and something clearly clicked in their heads, like, black guy robber. Or maybe it was something a little bit before they saw the police report that they thought black people were inherently criminal, and they got in their truck and just decided to shoot him down. But before he relinquished the case, Barnhill argued in a letter. So he argued that, and he cited a state law that states any private person may arrest an offender if an offense is committed in his presence or within immediate knowledge. So, it's the whole kind of BS of citizen's arrest is what you can do. For a long while, until like a few years ago, I did not entirely see this. I didn't really notice citizen's arrest were a thing, and I was really kind of surprised when I found out they were, because I was like, you're allowed to just arrest people. That, like, something could go wrong there. But anyway, Barnhill also argued that if Aubrey attacked Travis McMichael was allowed to use deadly force to protect himself under the Georgia law. So again, like, if you get into a fight with somebody, like, you can shoot them. There's just the stupidity of the stand your ground law. So that's kind of the side of the story of the father and the son there. So Mr. Barnhill wrote in his letter that Aubrey had mental health issues, though he does not elaborate on this point, and that he had prior convictions. He was apparently... Court records show that Aubrey was convicted of shoplifting and violating probation in 2018. 5 years earlier, according to the Brunswick News, he was indicted on charges that he took a handgun to a high school basketball game. Those details help explain his apparent aggressive nature and his possible thought pattern to attack an armed man. So, who knows what was happening? And there's really no reason to know, because the video is pretty much taken by someone who was driving and kind of only arrives on the scene. It's a very, very shaky video. There's no audio, so the person who's driving is in a car, and you can hear the shots very clearly. You kind of hear kind of like muffled altercation, and then you can just hear, it's so incredibly graphic video. So Mr. Barnhill's letter to the Glynn County Police Department, as well as the initial report at the request of the Times, was reviewed by Michael J. Moore, an Atlanta lawyer who formerly served as a U.S. attorney in Georgia, and he reviewed Barnhill's letter to the Glynn County Police Department, as well as the initial police report at the request of the New York Times. And in an email, Mr. Moore called Barnhill's opinion flawed. In his view, Mr. Moore said that McMichaels appeared to be the aggressors in the confrontation. They literally went after a guy with a pickup truck, a .357 Magnum, and a shotgun, and you can see the shotgun just at pretty much point-blank range firing into his side and stomach, and it takes like 3 shots before he finally stumbles down. It's just awful. And such aggressors were not justified in using force in Georgia's self-defense laws. The law doesn't, so if you went up to someone in a shotgun and he starts attacking you and then you shoot him, that's not self-defense because you went after him with a shotgun. Like, what? The law does not allow a group of people to form an armed posse and chase down an unarmed person who they believe might possibly be the perpetrator of a past crime. Like, this should be kind of obvious. After Barnhill agrees himself, the state's Attorney General office assigned the case to a third prosecutor, Tom Durden, who is based in Hinesville, Georgia. Mr. Durden must now decide whether to present the case to a grand jury. So in a recent interview with the Times, Durden said he would be looking at the case with fresh eyes. We don't know anything about the case. We don't have any preconceived idea about it. So hopefully there's some justice done, because Jesus Christ, it's absolutely awful. If this is allowed, you're allowed to, there's no sense of justice in this country whatsoever. Like, I'm sorry. This is just absolutely mind-boggling. It's just bad news on top of bad news that we see here in this country on a daily basis. Coming up next, we'll get you posted on what's been going on with the coronavirus, how our leaders are responding on the latest news. That's next. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough for listening to programming from the Spencer Walsh Radio Network. It really means a lot. So if you like what you're hearing, please consider supporting us by checking out our merch store available on Spreaker.com/TSWS. The link for it is there. Also, if you like what you're hearing, feel free to leave us a review on wherever or however you listen. You can do it on Spreaker by leaving a positive comment, and of course on iTunes by rating and reviewing us 5 stars, and on whatever possible program or site that you listen to SWRN on. Leave a nice review, leave a good comment, let us know your feedback, and also if it's negative too, I always welcome constructive feedback. Thank you so much for listening, and now let's get back to your show. Alright, so of course we're talking about the coronavirus now, and here's some pretty crazy news. I saw this, and it is really mind-boggling on top of mind-boggling right here, because despite growing evidence, the pandemic is still raging. An internal White House document now projecting 3,000 deaths per day, I think at some point in June. Like, that is a 9/11 a day. Like, that's what the outlook is if on the current track we are, because we are not anywhere close to being done with this pandemic. We're not even close to being, like, sensibly able to open up the economy. It's just not that point yet. We are just not at that point yet. And we see already people coming up and trying to end social distancing, and there's people who are pushing that, and we're looking at, if that continues with the current trends, there's models being released at looking at the possibility of a 9/11 a day, 3,000 deaths a day. Like, that's just obscene. Like, if that's actually true, if that model is correct, there's other models that say like 1,000 deaths, so maybe half a 9/11 a day. Like, that's great too. But still, the crazy thing is that there's still, President Trump and other administration officials said on Tuesday that they had made so much progress in bringing it under control that they plan to wind down the coronavirus task force in the coming weeks and focus the White House on restarting the economy. Trump said the task force would be shut down and replaced with an unspecified new advisory body as the country moved into what he called phase 2 of a response to a pandemic that's killed 70,000